Hi everyone, it was time for me to make another video and I wanted to get some inspiration. It came to me in the form of an email. One of my friends sent me an email. Mike is having a graduation party for his daughter who's graduating, and he asked me, Miguel, can you send me over the recipe for your guacamole? It's something that I do at work and people really loved it through the years. I've been there a long time and every time I make it, people just love it. The challenge with sending the recipe to Mike is that it's not really a recipe of like the ingredients. I'll certainly show you the ingredients, but it's more about technique. So this video is really going to be more about technique of how I make guacamole. So I'm going to be converting 4 avocados. I'm going to take about this much tomatoes. These are the kind of tomatoes I had in the house. That you can use any kind of tomatoes. I sometimes use plum tomatoes. They seem to work the best. The point here is that you want to get a tomato that's kind of meaty. Because I'll show you the technique. I'll take the seeds out and get as much moisture out of it because you really want to make have the tomatoes complement guacamole. I'll take an onion. I'll show you how that works. I'll put a jalapeno in there and I'll assemble it. It really is all about technique. It's not really about the ingredients. Of course, good ingredients will give you great guacamole. But I'm going to show you different techniques that I use and also tell you a story of how it came about this recipe. So stay tuned. I'll start going through everything. And the first thing is to prepare. So I'll start chopping all these vegetables and turn them into and show you the pieces before I assemble it. The first thing I'll do is take an onion and go ahead and dice it. So I'll take this onion. When I'm done dicing it, I'll go ahead and measure it so we know how much onion that I'll put in here. Because remember, we're dealing with 4 avocados, so we'll want to get the ratio right. I'll talk through that as I go through the process. So this turned out to be a little bit more than 8 ounces of onions, chopped onions. So I put some onions to the side, and I decided that I'm going to go with, again, 4 avocados. I'm going to go with 8 ounces of diced onions. If you've seen my videos before, one of the things I really pay attention to is the size of the cuttings that I do in the vegetables. So if I'm going to hold this up to the screen so you can see a little better, that's about the size of the dicing that I got to, because I really like to make sure that when you are scooping, think about the food you're preparing, and when you go to scoop a chip and get guacamole on it, think about the size onion you would want inside that guacamole. So I like to have the onions that size because it gives it a nicer bite to it. So I'm going to go with 8 ounces, about that size. The next step is to cut up the tomatoes. I want to get about 8 ounces of diced tomatoes. I want the dices to be about the same size. Again, want to match the size of the onions. So I'm going to be using these little tomatoes. I don't know what they're called. They're about this big. I've used these. I've used plum tomatoes. I've used, I haven't really used beefsteak tomatoes, but I've used them about this big or maybe the little bit bigger ones, the plum tomatoes. Don't use the cherry tomatoes. It takes too long. But I'll use these. As I dice them up, I'm going to go squeeze them out and squeeze the water out of them. Just on the cutting board, I'll show you how I do that. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And again, the goal that I'm shooting for is to get about 8 ounces of diced tomatoes to match the 8 ounces of onions. Okay, so I'm done dicing up all the tomatoes, and I've actually made sure that I cut out all the little green stems or the green points out of it. No one likes to eat that. They're not very good tasting. But you'll notice that there's a little bit of tomato juice leaking out in this area here. What I typically will do is take this over to the sink and you squeeze my knife on top of it and let the water drain out. I'm not going to drain it completely. I guess I could put it in a strainer. I don't want to get another strainer dirty. If you've seen my videos before, I don't like getting extra things dirty if I don't need to. So I'm going to go ahead and push them down a little bit, get some of the water out of it, and I'm going to measure it up. I will go ahead and measure these, make sure I get about 8 ounces because I want to, again, it's about consistency and balance. So I'm going to do the same amount of tomatoes as I do about onions. I'll check that now. Thanks. Okay, there we go, and I went ahead and squeezed them over the sink, and I tilted it, let the water drip out. While I was doing it, I thought to myself, what do I also want to tell my viewers? Well, actually, what you want to do is do this very slowly. Do not tilt it too far, or else all the tomatoes will drop into the sink. You have to start chopping tomatoes again. You won't like it. So do it carefully, do it slowly. If you're inexperienced with it, maybe I probably should suggest that you use a strainer. So go ahead and use, probably would have used a wire mesh strainer. Take the moisture out of it. Again, just want to minimize the amount of moisture that you're adding to the guacamole. So I'll go ahead and measure this, put it into a measuring cup. Like I said, want to get about 8 ounces. So I'll go ahead and do that. Have a couple more tomatoes if I need to, but it looks like it's measuring pretty close. The other thing I can do is also reduce the number of onions. But again, it's about ratio. You'll see that it's just scooping up pretty easily. And holding it up, yeah, just about 8 ounces. So next thing we're going to go ahead and chop is the jalapeno. So I'll go ahead and chop up the jalapeno. This will be finely chopped. And if you haven't figured out yet, what I like to do with maybe the secret of my guacamole is that I create a pico de gallo first, and you'll see how it starts coming together. I'll wash off my cutting board. We'll start with a fresh, clean cutting board, and then we'll come right back. I'll start chopping this up. Thanks. Okay, when you go to cut the jalapeno, if you are someone who's very, very sensitive to the burn factor, you can leave it out. Or the other thing I was going to say is you may want to use rubber gloves. I don't bother with rubber gloves, but you do want to take the seeds out. It's not nice to have the seeds in there. So I'll take the seeds out of them, cut it out carefully. Again, if your knife skills are better than mine, then you'll be doing this faster. If they're not, then go a little slower. Make sure you get all the seeds out, and you'll notice if you're actually here watching me cook, you'll notice that I spend a lot of time going back to the sink and cleaning off my cutting board. Get all the seeds out, shake them out, put this to the side, wash the board. We'll start chopping them up into fine pieces. Okay. Okay, we have a clean cutting board. I'll go ahead and start cutting. While I was cleaning the cutting board, I thought to myself, oh, there's something else I probably should have mentioned. When you go to cut tomatoes, one of the things I like to do or share with people is if your knife skills are not, you're learning to, cut better, and you're just starting out, or you maybe don't have a sharp knife. Maybe you're at a friend's house and they've asked you to make guacamole and they don't have a sharp knife. Go ahead and grab a serrated one. Serrated knives for tomatoes makes it a lot easier to cut a tomato. Gets right through the skin and things go easier. If you have not heard this before, a sharp knife will make it safer in the kitchen for you because you're not using as much pressure as you would have to if you had a dull knife. So you don't want to be pushing on a knife when you go to do that. If you notice, I'm cutting the jalapenos. I had the 2 halves. I cut thin slivers. I'm going to be dicing it. So now I'll just get through and start cutting it small. Again, you want to think about what you're going to be putting in your mouth when you scoop up a nacho chip with guacamole. And my family likes to have it not super hot, so I will just do 1 jalapeno. If you like it hotter, go ahead and use more jalapenos. If you don't have jalapenos, sometimes I would just go right to hot sauce or maybe use cayenne pepper, things like that. But they all seem to be cut pretty well. Sometimes I'll go through it again, like you see here. This is 1 jalapeno. You saw about the size of it. So we have some ingredients. We have 1 jalapeno. We have 8 ounces of onions. We have 8 ounces of diced tomatoes that have been drained a little bit. You see there's still some liquid in there. These 3 ingredients, and actually I just realized it looks like a Mexican flag. These 3 ingredients I'll put into a bigger bowl and start making a pico de gallo. And then that's where we start putting things in. I'm going to add some cilantro. Some people don't like cilantro. If your family doesn't like cilantro, or if you're making for a big crowd, there are some people who have a specific gene that causes cilantro to taste like soap. So my suggestion to you, and I do this for my family, there's a couple members of my family who have that it just tastes like soap to them. So leave cilantro out, put it on the side, and I think about that for my friend Ann. All right, I'll put this together, start making the pico de gallo, and we'll talk through the process. Thanks. Put all 3 ingredients in together. We have equal amounts of onions, equal amount of tomatoes. Again, remember that we're going to be using 4 avocados. And this is a pico de gallo. I have in here just the 3 ingredients, jalapeno, onions, and tomatoes. And what I want to do now is start putting some salt. And what I like to do is use garlic salt and garlic powder. Oh, here's something. I don't usually measure this, but I will today. So for this amount, 8 and 8, I think I'm going to use half a teaspoon. Trying to judge how much I normally use. Yeah, half a teaspoon sounds good. Half a teaspoon of granulated garlic. This is from Kirkland's from Costco. Looks like that. Okay, that looks about right. That's a half a teaspoon. I'm going to use the same amount of half a teaspoon of garlic salt. You can use regular salt, but I'll use garlic salt in there. And I also want to be able to use some lemon juice. So I'll just mix this around first. I'll put a little bit of pepper in it. I don't want to have an overwhelming flavor of pepper, but I do certainly want just a little bit of bite to it. So I'll use that because it is something prepared and not cooking. I'll use a few twists of fresh pepper. Put a little pepper in there. Now, one of the things that I picked up on watching a lot of cooking shows is when you're preparing this for company, right? It's not family. One tip I have taught myself is go through about 8 teaspoons. Just having they're handy because no one likes people to dip in and use the same spoon that you're tasting with. So if you're going to taste something, taste it and then put that spoon right in the sink. So I'll just take a little bit, taste it up, put the spoon in the sink. And what you're going for here is a mixture that's like a very salty mixture of the 3 ingredients. Because what you're trying to do is get yourself ready for that flavoring that's going to happen with the guacamole. So when you put the avocados in, it's going to eat up some of the salt. So you want to make it a little bit saltier. I think I only use half a teaspoon. You can put another teaspoon, so maybe the rest. So now the recipe actually changes to a full teaspoon of garlic salt. I think the garlic flavor is coming in through fine. The other thing that I will put in here is cumin. So I have cumin powder, ground cumin, and I'm going to also then guesstimate here that I'll use half a teaspoon. I don't put too much of it. I know I'm not going to go more than this because you put too much in here, it's going to make your guacamole look browner than it is green. So we have half a teaspoon of granulated garlic, 1 teaspoon of garlic salt, and half a teaspoon of ground cumin. Mix it all up. Grab a different clean spoon. Take a little taste. It's not a big mouthful. It's just a little bit. Okay, it's got the right saltiness to it. I can taste the garlic coming through, and the comino just has a really nice flavor to it. Toss another spoon, because remember we're making this for company. It's not just family where with family maybe you do what you do with family, but people are coming over. Want to make sure that's clean. So one of the things that I wanted to share with you is that this recipe actually happened by accident for me because one night I had agreed for work that I was going to bring guacamole. I don't believe it wasn't for my current job, but I had agreed to bring guacamole. I went to the store and got them, and they were all really semi-hard. When you pick out an avocado, what you want to do is hold it in your hand and then just gently push with this part of your thumb. This part of your thumb. If you can push in gently, and it starts to just give a little bit, then it's going to be ready for that day. If it's super hard, it's going to be ready in 3 or 4 days. If it's super soft or you feel around and you feel any pockets in the skin, air pockets in the skin, that's too bad, so sad, put that back. Don't buy that one. So you want to have something that has a little bit of give on it. You squeeze it with all your fingers, it puts too much strength. I really found that how my grandmother taught me was hold it in your hand, push with the strength of your thumb into it, and if it gives just a little bit, it's going to be nice and green. It's hard enough for you. Well, the avocados that I bought that day were way too hard. So as people have seen avocados, this is where I think this recipe is more technique than anything else. You've already seen the pico de gallo that I made. What I ended up doing then was I cut them up. I had no choice. I was gonna bring it in. It was a big international day at work, and you see how I put the knife in and just rolled it around the pit. Take the avocado and then spin it. It'll come out. See how nice green color? A little bit of brown in there. Didn't notice that. Didn't expect that. But see how it's nice and green and that nice light green yellow color to it. Take the knife, put the avocado in your hand gently like this. Take the knife and gently push down. You should be able to catch enough of the knife into the pit. Twist, and it comes out. Oops, here. Comes out, and the pit's out. With that, I'll switch knives. And one of the things that people will sometimes do is go ahead and take a scoring it into different rows. Make sure you don't get any of the skin on it. So I'll score it the long way. I'll score it the short way. So as I was saying, I bought these avocados and they were really, really hard. So I had no way of mashing them. They would not mash with the fork. They wouldn't mash with the potato masher. So what I ended up doing is what I'm going to show you now. I put the avocados in, as you see, because I already scored them. It'll come out into the pan as in chunks. But imagine that this is way too hard to go with the potato masher. I'll show you what I did next. Let me carve this out here with the spoon. Because this one had a bit of brown piece, I used a spoon around it and I left the brown piece right in the skin. I didn't want to use any of that. So protect yourself that way. I'll do the same thing here. Carefully take the avocado, put it through to the pit, roll the avocado around the knife. Put the knife down, twist the avocado. It'll come out, and this one actually looks much nicer. You can see that? Go ahead and hit it again. Twist it. You'll see how it comes out nicely. This one came out a lot nicer for me as a demo than the last one. So it comes out. I'll go ahead and score it. It's not necessary, but I certainly want to just show you that, you know, the scoring will help you. I have a spoon here, and I'll go ahead and scoop it out, just like an ice cream scoop. Scoop it out. Careful not to catch the skin. Scoops out, and it's going to be in big chunks. Now the next one, I'm not going to pre-score. I'll show you why I did that. So here I am having this problem. The avocados are super hard. I don't know what I'm going to do. I definitely made the pico de gallo, ready to put the mixtures in. But now I have these really hard. You see the nice hard shell here, right? So imagine this was really, really hard for me, and I didn't know what to do. So necessity is the mother of invention. I took a knife and I started cutting through it, the avocado halves, and just making them to dicing. So what I was really doing was just kind of dicing the avocado meat that I had. By dicing the avocado meat, what ended up happening was it created a texture that was really different than any other guacamole that I've ever tasted, because it was really a pico de gallo with avocado cubes. And that is the way I invented my guacamole. So my guacamole, I've never really seen it anywhere else that way. People really seem to like it. I've done a lot of them. I've done it many times in my current job. People just love it and they want the recipe. And I tell them it's not a super complicated recipe. I don't know, really what to tell you. But when my friend asked me for the recipe for his daughter's graduation, I thought, yeah, I'm gonna have to do a video, because it really is technique. It's not about the ingredients. It's pretty simple. You can get anything. You can get those ingredients off any recipe online. But as you see, I have these cubes, and you just keep on dumping them into the bowl. This is my last one, and I'm about to show you the technique then that I use. So last one comes out, a little round, semi-round ball. Okay, so I'm all done. And that's what I ended up doing. This is going to be a little bit easier for me today, but that one day when I kind of first came up with this was I had to literally cut these avocados because they were not soft. These are soft enough. And you'll see that I'm just doing a cross cut all the way across. I'm just kind of attacking the avocado, and I'm creating just different slices, different cuts around it. And it's getting to pieces. Now remember the size pieces that we had of onions and the size pieces we had of tomatoes that match each other. That's what I'm going for with the avocados, because all I'm doing here is cutting through them with the steak knife. And I don't know if you can see, but what's happening is that I'm ending up with the same size of cubes. I'm not mashing them, and what it creates is a really interesting bite when you go in and reach into this bowl of guacamole and that I've made for people. And it's almost done. I'll show you the sizes of it. Hopefully it comes across in the camera pretty well. So I look through and make sure there isn't any major pieces that are still out there. This is a good texture, softness to it. Let me hold it up to the camera. Now it's all chopped up, right? They're all chopped up, and if you can imagine, that's about the size of, let me put a scoop of this in. It's about the size of the onions and tomatoes that go in there. So now I want to go ahead and put in the pico de gallo, and this is where it becomes more just art than science. I'll put this all in there. I gently fold it. I use a wooden spoon like my grandma taught me. Gently fold it in. Has the tricolors of the Mexican flag, which I've always thought was cool. And I'm going to finish this with a little bit of lemon juice. And that's so the green stays green. I did not put in too much cumin because I did not want the cumin brown flavor or brown color to darken this in any way. Another trick or secret that a friend of mine, a Mexican friend of mine, showed me is, Miguel, you always want to put the pits back in. And I don't put all the pits in. There was four avocados, so I'll put 2 pits in because what she told me was it fools the avocado fruit to think that it's still inside its own shell. So that also helps it from starting to brown. So I'll now take a lemon. So now I'll take a lemon, go ahead and half it. I'm only going to put the juice in of 1/2 of a lemon. So I'll do that with this juicers. If just lemon juice out of the bottle is fine, but you always want to do it upside down because you want to keep the pits inside. I don't think the pits would actually come out of the bottom holes, but if you are going to do it without this and just do it in your hand, you see the chefs on TV do it like this and sprinkles around. What I have found is if I do it this way and let the lemon juice pour out of the top, I make sure that I don't get any seeds into my cooking. So I'll go ahead and do that. Now there's this little seed here. It's going to give me trouble. Pull it out. The juice of 1 lemon, didn't go crazy with it. Put it in there. That's going to keep it nice and green. And now it's ready for Tupperware. And because I have these spoons here, I'll go ahead and grab another clean spoon. Check it for what I'm checking for is salt and hotness. If there's not enough heat in this spoon bite, I'll go ahead and add some cayenne or some Tabasco sauce. Yeah, the salt is perfect on it. The salt is really perfect. Blend it together. I didn't measure how much weight of the avocados were, but there were 4 average size avocados, Hass avocados. This is all ready to go. And I would say this makes one. I'll go ahead and put this into a Tupperware and tell you how much this makes, and you can estimate how much guacamole you need. Okay, so there we go. We've taken the guacamole and put it into a soup bowl, and I put it on my scale, and it came up measuring with 4 avocados, the 8 ounces of onions, the 8 ounces of tomatoes, and the jalapeno, just about 1 pound 14 ounces. So just shy of 2 ounces shy of 2 pounds. So that's how much it gives you. So there you have it. I've made Miguel's famous guacamole. There's a recipe for everyone to have. Like I said, it's a lot more technique than anything else. Making the sizes of the guacamole, the sizes of the pieces of food in guacamole, the onions, the tomatoes, and the avocado pieces into chunks about the same size kind of yields this. Hopefully this will be fun for people who want to try it out. And there is my guacamole. Everyone enjoy. Thanks.